The internet is flooded with content creators showing you all the things that you need to buy in order to survive the days ahead. Today we're going to talk about the 5 most important aspects that they're totally disregarding, but that will make all the difference. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene. And last night I was doing some research and became a little bit overwhelmed because all of these content creators were telling people that they needed to stockpile all this stuff in order to survive the coming days ahead. And yes, stuff is important, but I think the reason why that message is out there is because you can't make money in this world if you're not selling stuff. For me, who even knows all of this stuff, I started to get panicked and worried about what I didn't have. And then I calmed myself down and realized that there are 5 basic preps that are more important than anything that you can stockpile. The first one is knowledge and skills, because you can lose everything that you have stockpiled. And yet, if you have basic skills and knowledge, you can survive. You can recreate a life. And there are several scenarios that actually could take away everything that you own. A wildfire is one example where you can lose everything in a heartbeat, but nobody can take away the knowledge that you have or the skills that you have acquired.
And remember, our friend Jim Phillips defined knowledge as information multiplied, and that is multiplied by experience. So you need to make sure that you are not only getting information, but you're utilizing that and trying it and making sure it works, making sure that you know what to do because you've got that experience and information. And number 2, attitude. Attitude is so critical. You can have all the stuff in the world, but if you've got a stinky attitude, you're probably not going to make it. You need to have a positive, expectant attitude that things are going to turn out well and that you're not only going to be part of the solution, but you're going to help so many people along the way because you are just that. You are part of the solution. You're helping yourself, your family, your community, your loved ones, and that makes all the difference. Having that positive attitude is so very critical.
We hear this a lot in the comments. Well, I could think not a lot, but even in our audience, people say that if this happens, I don't want to survive. I'm not even going to prepare for it. And that kind of attitude will ensure that you don't make it through. Now, number 3 kind of goes a little bit with number 2, but you need a reason to survive. For me, that reason to survive are all the people that I love. It's Jonathan and my children and my grandchildren and our friends and our neighbors. There's good reason to want to survive. We may be going through some really hard times, but we have every reason to hope that the future will be bright.
And that is so true in all the research. Those people who survive are those that had some purpose. They had some need to take care of somebody or some important reason, and so that is so critical. Number 4 is community and relationships, and these relationships are so important. We emphasize this a lot. It's important to get to know your neighbors. It's important to build your community and to find people who are like-minded, who will help and work together to make sure the outcome is good. So build your community and develop relationships that will be so important and critical in this future time.
And number 5, I actually think is the most important, and that is your relationship with God. I know that we have some viewers out there who don't have that same faith as I do, but I can tell you that I know that God lives and I see miracles in my life every day. The first thing that we need to do in this category is to learn how to draw down the powers of heaven through prayer. And the second is like it. We need to develop the ability to hear God and what He is telling us. Both of these take practice every day. If you just take time to connect with God and then to listen to what He is telling you, you will become more and more sensitive to His Spirit, and in turn, will be able to hear Him. Now, when you hear those promptings, we need to develop the wisdom to act upon them. There's a few examples that I'd like to cite. The first one was the widow of Zarephath. She was down to her last little bit of meal and oil, and she was out gathering sticks to be able to make a fire so that she could cook that, and then her son and her were planning to die. But then the prophet Elijah asked her to make some food for him first. And she did it, and in turn, her cruse of oil and her barrel of meal did not fail until the rain came. That's a great testimony. Christ turned water into wine. He fed thousands with a few loaves of bread and fishes. I think we can look at those examples and recognize that sometimes we think we are limited to only what we can physically do. But as we draw on the higher power, we have such greater ability to be okay. And then there's Joseph in Egypt. And if you remember that story, Pharaoh had a dream, and there were 7 fat, healthy cows, and then there were 7 lean cows, and the fat cows ate the lean cows. And Joseph interpreted that dream, and because of that, Egypt stored grain for 7 years when they had good harvests. And then for 7 years, Egypt still was strong and was feeding the people all around because they had the food to last them through the famine. So when God tells you to do things that might not make a lot of sense, like storing food or buying something that you might not really think you need, or developing a certain skill or talent, it may be for a really good purpose. We need to really learn to hear Him and act upon those promptings that we receive and not be intimidated by them.
I have a favorite scripture that talks basically about the importance of cheerfully doing what lies in our power, and that's what we're doing right now. And then we can stand back and watch God's power and watch for Him to take care of the things that we weren't able to do. And that just inspires me every time.
Prepping isn't all about money. All 5 of these things that we talked about today, they require hard work and sacrifice, but they are more important than anything else that you can do. Now, in our case, we have been told we need to store food. There are certain things that we know that we need to do, and that's part of developing the faith. So I guess in some respects, it does require some money, but it's about listening. It's about acting.
And it's very much about these 5 skills that don't cost you anything but a little bit of time and dedication.
So we invite you to join us. And for our question of the day today, how are you doing in each of these 5 areas? What can you do to improve? Do you have any experiences that you would like to share with our audience about how God is prompting you to do certain things to prepare for the days ahead? Comment below.
And thanks for being part of the solution.